Yes, now my pay is gonna be reduced now that I'm no longer there. I'm going to reduce pay.
Yeah.
Cut in half.
Prorated for that minute that you were.
Yeah. Now my pay is gonna be reduced now.
All right, for muting. So there we go. So that's that. There is, now we gotta find where we are. Oh, there we go.
Okay,
Hey, we're good.
We are ready.
Good.
Great.
clarify that IDA directors do not receive any compensation.
Yes, I'd like to call to order the meeting of the Tompkins County Industrial Development Agency Finance Committee for January 26th, 2023. And welcome to everybody. I think Andrew Brayman is on the way here. He's the acting county finance director. So he should be with us shortly, but I believe we can start the meeting with the agenda item being the consideration of the audit of the IDA. And we have a representative from Insero here today with us.
Evan Cleveland.
Evan Cleveland, thank you. Sorry about that. I turn the floor over to you if you want to just give us a summary of your audit letter.
Thanks a lot.
Preliminary letter.
So I'm Evan Cleveland, audit partner with Insero and Company. I got promoted January 1, so new name.
Congratulations.
Appreciate it. Great. So I've stepped in to take over Leslie Spurgeon's role, and she's still not she's technically retired, still around though, which I really appreciate because she has tons of knowledge that I tap into occasionally. So in front of you, you have the communication letter to those charged with governance at the planning stages of the audit. So this is very similar to what you received last year. Last year was a new suite of accounting standards that we implemented and changed around a lot of communication letters. Now it's the same as last year. So the first part of page 1 just describes effective two-way communication between us as auditors and members of management and the board. So we're required to communicate if any issues come to our attention regarding fraud, non-compliance, control deficiencies, significant unusual transactions. And we'll also intend on sending out our standard board inquiries to members of the IDA board. I've asked a few questions, probably sent to everyone, which we normally do. Page 2 of the communication letter jumps into independence. So we're required to be independent to issue the independent auditor's report. And we have policies and procedures that are firm that ensure that we are independent members on the team for the audit that it consists of independent members. And we're required to do an independent survey annually that we have just done recently. Also through the audit planning process. So we're required to gain an understanding of the entity, update our understandings, set a materiality, and assess risks of material misstatement. The bottom paragraph just dives into the concept of materiality. So we use a base that's most useful to financial statement users. Total assets is what we use for the IDA. And a certain percentage of that base is what we set as what would materially misstate the financial statements. And using that number is how we base our testing based on financial statement line items. Dive into those and test substantively analytically. And yeah, most of our testing is based off the materiality and risk. Page 3.
What is that percentage?
It's a sliding scale. I'm not exactly sure what it is at this moment. It depends on what your total assets are, though. So if they're between 750 and $1 million, probably be 100,000 maybe. I think that seems reasonable.
Mm-hmm. I mean, specifically in the case of IDA, we have a growing fund balance. Our assets are perhaps significant, but our operating budget is actually quite small relative to that. I don't know if it would be worth considering, using an annual budget number instead of a total assets or something like that.
Normally we'll assess it annually because your revenue was like a roller coaster based on the projects that you have. And we will revise what we use as our base depending upon how much activity there is. We can't not test revenue or expenses, which are normally much easier.
Sure. Good point, John.
So page 3 dives into significant risks and material misstatement. So every audit, the risks are management override controls and revenue recognition. And we list those and what the risk is, what the description is, and what our plan response is. So we read minutes, we review control procedures, evaluate journal entries, perform preliminary and final analytics. And those are our responses, and perform cutoff testing for revenue recognition. And the next paragraph is approach to internal control and compliance relevant to the audit. So as part of our audit, we gain an understanding of controls. Your significant control cycles are cash receipts and cash disbursements. So we evaluate them, perform what's called a walkthrough of your transaction cycles to see that everything's in place, operating effectively. And because we perform an audit under government auditing standards, we'll issue a report on internal control and compliance over financial reporting, which sort of ties into the evaluation of internal controls. And we've scheduled the fieldwork to begin January 30th, which is Monday.
Next week.
Yep.
Hey, having a quick question on that. Since the county really does our accounting for us, if you discovered something that's your county level audit, would that filter down into
Yeah,
us, even if it's not affecting our books and records, but you would let us know about
We
it?
have to take into account what happens there, since really their control procedures also affect the IDA. So yes, if there's something that occurs there, we would evaluate here.
Great.
Yep.
I mean, do we even cut any checks or anything out of? Like that all goes through the county finance office, right?
It does.
I'm called upon to sign checks, and I sign pretty large checks that go over to IAED to fund their operation of the IDA.
Mhm.
But they're all county checks.
Right.
Yeah, so we usually will provide an invoice or a memo with, what we need a check for and the purpose and all of that. Send it over. We keep copies, they keep copies, and then they cut checks. And if it's over a certain amount, which is a very small amount, maybe off the top of your head, we need a signature from an IDA member that's appointed to sign checks. If it's a small amount, I think the county finance director can just
Sign it.
I think if it's 5,000 or less, the county finance director has
I
authority
was gonna say that.
over,
Yeah.
which John has to review and.
I've signed checks in the $5,000
range.
plus.
Yeah.
Plus. Yeah.
Not many checks go in and out.
Right.
So that's all I had to go over. I'll open it up to any questions from any of you, and then open up the discussion if anything new significant has happened this year that you should be aware of jumping into the audit next week.
I'm not aware of anything out of the ordinary course in the past year of operation, but Heather, maybe you have knowledge.
No.
Okay.
Business
Good.
as usual. We were not as busy this past year as we were the previous 2 years. So when you're testing our revenues, it might be a little bit easier on you. I would like to touch base about the when you anticipate the audit will be completed, so that we can hit, timing for the Paris reports that need to be uploaded.
What's our requirements on that, the timing on that Paris report?
March 31st.
Yeah, so they have to be finished uploading, I guess, close of business, March 31st.
And do we need the boards to sign off? Like, I feel like there's something about like we approve you uploading it and then we later actually review it or something.
The audit, I think, though, we've approved.
Yeah, we
prior to,
Finalize.
yeah, we finalized the audit.
For the full board.
Mhm.
Yep.
Right, okay.
So we
Right.
should.
There are other reports that we do backwards like that, right? It's just about the audit.
Yeah, so I can input data from projects and upload things. I just can't do a final, we're done without the actual documents that say approved, complete, can't do a draft like we did maybe 5 years ago and then redo it. But now we need to have the,
That was the pandemic year.
yeah, or even before, it was like, they were like, oh, okay, and then you would put in the final one, but now you need a final completed audit, the document.
So then we should aim to be at the IDA on March 8th for approval. If this committee needs to meet and review it, they'll need to meet before that.
Right.
Yes.
Is that doable?
Yeah. So normally we'll have all the financial numbers good and the pairs and pilots and.
Yeah, we'll be looking real.
Sometimes there's a few stragglers.
Look at that.
Yeah,
Yeah, because the bond that the IDA and the Development Corp need to still report on just in terms of debt payment, they're very good about submitting numbers. And in terms of mortgage recording tax and sales tax, those are pretty good. It's just trying to get the final little employment numbers from a few, but they're rolling in. I've got a few to remind, but things are coming along. So the number part for the finance will be done. My part might be a little straggly, but
Yeah, I think I recall last year, we even approved it pending. We were still waiting for project reports from like 3 projects that had their job numbers on it.
Right.
so one other thing that I missed mentioning, there is a new accounting standard that is effective for municipalities. It's GASB 87 leases. Good thing is most of your leases are for $1, so it won't affect you.
Okay.
And I'm curious, what is that standard doing? Is it,
So any operating lease where you have right to use another entity's asset for a period of time, you would record a right to use asset on your financial statements for the length of the lease and liability offsetting that. And it goes both ways for a lessee and a lessor. So the county is going to have to do a lot related to it.
okay,
But because we only lease for $1, then it's not material, even though
Correct.
the asset could be worth a lot more than.
And the pilot payments aren't actually lease payments. They're just, we manage control of the property through the lease.
Yes,
And then the pilot payments are still tax payments.
yes.
Okay,
Yep.
so it don't count.
So
other payments in lieu of,
Well, right. But I mean, if they were like considered rent under the lease or that, whatever, it's like, that could be much
yeah,
messier.
how they're written, it won't affect it. So you do a lease back transaction or a sale lease back
So,
transaction
yeah,
for
lease
$1.
is back now.
Yeah.
I recall there was a change several years ago that really had significant tax implications between leasing and owning. Is this related to that?
This one's mostly related to eliminating off-balance sheet financing.
Yeah, okay. Okay.
So it allows a financial statement user to see what an entity has in future cash outflows. It's really what basis. So you
Right.
don't see that before. It just runs through your operating expenses. And now you see that they have a lease for 10 years for $1 million.
Right.
All
So
the
you
cash
put the
outflow.
full lease
Yeah.
value
Yep.
in your balance sheet as a liability at the beginning of the lease rather than just
Yes.
recognizing the rent every month.
Yes.
Okay. That
So
makes
that's what
sense.
the standard does now.
And that was my recollection that it really changed or could change the thinking for a business on whether they wanted to rent or own.
Mhm.
The company I was at always wanted to rent so that they didn't have the,
And now it won't matter.
good, okay, that's got clarity around it.
Mhm.
All right. Is there any other business to come before the finance committee?
You didn't have any privilege of the floor, right?
Do we need to approve them, or is that just part of the county process that?
I think this was informational, but we.
Yep.
So I don't think we have to take any action.
Okay, great.
We launch it and we will take action when the audit comes in, as you know. So I think that's when we have to take a vote.
Right, but our only action is just to send it on the board, right? Like it's not, we don't actually approve it as this group.
Right. But we would
We approve it.
refer
I
it.
think actually this committee does need to review and recommend approval to the full board.
Okay.
So I don't know if you want to set up a meeting prior to the March 8th meeting to like review the
Yeah.
draft.
It makes sense to do that.
So we can at least get it on.
We're all here with.
We've got to be in person.
Again, it's in person and here.
Evan, when do you think you would be prepared to have us come in?
So I would think shortly before, I'll have to trying to figure out how to use my
So
calendar.
March 8th is a Wednesday.
It is, it's the second Wednesday of the month.
So
Well, and you need some time to make the agenda and send the audit materials to the board.
Yeah.
Right, so we probably should try to do it like the first or then about.
The agenda would go out on the 1st.
Right.
Oh, for the ID board.
Right.
We should
The
do it
IDA,
by then.
Yeah, we really should try to do it like sometime like 27th, 28th or something like that.
maybe even the 23rd, 24th.
Yeah,
So then if anything needs to be modified,
it gives us some time.
Zero has a couple of days to do that.
Yeah. That week is like
That's
everybody's.
winter break.
That week, so it's
Yeah.
like, that's
So
kind of
maybe
gonna be
the
a challenging week.
7,
7th would be better.
Okay, what time works for everybody?
I'm
I'm
open.
up in the
The
whole.
Monday.
Maybe first thing in the morning,
Which
9 a.m.?
like,
9 a.m.
okay,
Mine's fairly open.
okay.
I don't think I have anything scheduled that far
I
out.
teach at 10 for an hour, so 10 to 11, but I'm up on campus. So.
Later in the
Like an
morning?
8:30 if you wanted to do earlier. I don't know. if
I do 8:30.
To get
Want
up.
to do 8:30 and get it done?
I'm up early anyway.
Sure,
I'd always get me up at 6. There's nothing like it.
I know you'll send a calendar invite out.
I will.
And for all our, viewers at home,
Oh, yeah.
get an early 8:30.
Morning coffee.
That's right.
Post IDA meeting.
Hey,
You will counteract the effect of the morning coffee. 8:30
Yes,
on December, or February 27th.
correct. I will put that on the website, send a calendar invite. I did receive an apology or a regret from Andrew. He's leaving very soon this afternoon. He has some surgery coming up, so he's a little crazed, so,
okay.
but he can watch it later. if he wants
Indeed.
to.
Thanks.
Submit any questions in writing.
Yeah,
We didn't already cover them.
so are we done?
Great.
All right, I entertain a motion to adjourn. I move seconded. All those in favor?